How to be resilient in tough times. Hey everyone, my name is Darin Ruddock, founder of Finish Line Institute of Transformation, coach, consultant, and trainer. So we are in the middle of the pandemic and a lot of people are struggling with anxiety, struggling with the effects of the pandemic, the lockdown, job losses, and the overall uncertainty. People don't know what to do. And we know that we need to be more resilient. Resiliency helps you to cope with the tough times and it enables you to grow through difficulties. One way to grow through difficulty is to listen to the stories of other resilient people. And one of such people in my life who is resilient, whose story impacts me very much, in fact, it improves my resiliency in the moment immediately, is my father. And I'm gonna share with you my father's story of resilience. My father wanted to get to the United States of America, a dream he has always had since the 1980s. He tried to do it the legal way, so he attempted to get visa in Jamaica, and he was denied all the time. So he heard that one of the ways to get to the United States, other than with a visa, is to catch a ride on a cargo ship, but not leaving Jamaica directly. Jamaica's security at the time was just too tight. So he heard of a cargo ship leaving another island, going to the United States on a regular basis. And so what he did, he packed up himself and flew to that island to attempt to hop a ride on the cargo ship to get to the US. So he got to this island where he knew no one. When he got there, he staked out the port to figure out the schedule of the cargo ship. At the time of his voyage, my father already had 7 of us on his mind in Jamaica. We were his purpose, his big why, his reason for embarking on such risky endeavor. His goal? Arrive in America. How? In a cargo ship, and he cannot get caught. To not get caught, my father had to pack light. So what he did, he packed a flask of water in his pocket, a pack of crackers that holds about $12 and $100. Wearing 2 suits of clothes, he took off towards the ship. Destination, the cargo hold. That's where the containers are kept. How would he do this without getting caught? Well, he couldn't use the front entrance. That's for employees only. So what he did, he used the top entrance. That's the chimney. The chimney is the exhaust of the ship that excretes gases from the boiler room. To get there, he had to swim to the ship, then jump to the deck. And then from the deck, he would jump to the chimney. I could imagine him hugging the chimney and wrapping his legs around it and pulling himself up onto the chimney because there are no steps. See, the chimney is built at an angle to prevent navigational error. It's built that way to steer the exhaust out of the view of the captain. And because it's built at an angle, my father had to crawl through it headways all the time, not knowing what awaited him the next step. There were electric wires there. There was a trapdoor there. It's not like there was Google around at the time to give him a preview of the trip. He had to absorb the uncertainty all the time, not knowing what awaited him. This is what gets people about difficult times, the uncertainty. For example, COVID. People are questioning, when is this gonna end? When is the vaccine coming? When is the lockdown gonna be lifted? When are the economies gonna be reopened? It really gets people, right? And for us to move forward in our lives, we have to be able to absorb the pain of that uncertainty. And to move through that uncertainty, to move through the exhaust of the ship, to get to his destination, the cargo hold, my father had to absorb the pain of the uncertainty. He had to show what Poet Keats calls negative capability. Negative capability is your willingness or your ability to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. That's what we need to do right now. How can you tell if someone is going to be able to go through a difficult time? If someone is going to be able to manage a crisis? You can tell this by your willingness or your ability to absorb the discomfort, to get comfortable with the discomfort of the unknown, which is on the other side of your crisis. That's how you can tell if you're willing or you're able to absorb the pain of the uncertainty. By some tiny act of miracle, my father found the cargo hold without getting caught. This ship was transporting vehicles to the US, and my father made his bed on top of one of the trailer trucks. He would spend the next 3 days in a metal container alone. To survive, he rationed 1 flask of water and 12 crackers over 3 days. I asked him if he was afraid. He replied, "Fred, me not afraid of nothing, man. If you're afraid, you can't start." As I listened to my father's story, his words saying he's not afraid of anything, because if you're afraid, you can't start. When I listened to those words, in that moment, I felt like his words were like a spear, piercing my coward soul. And on its tip, it has medicine to boost courage, to boost boldness, to boost commitment, to succeed no matter what. And as I listened to his story, I couldn't help but to think that just the other day, in the earlier part of the lockdown, how I had a panic attack for about a week, dealing with the uncertainty, not knowing when the economy is going to be open again, not knowing where this COVID thing is going to take us, right? I was dealing with that, and I couldn't help but to turn up in that moment. I couldn't help but to turn up the dial on my boldness, my courage, my bravery. And immediately I turned up the dial on my commitment to thrive, to go through everything despite of the situation I'm in. And that's what happens when you listen to the stories of people who are resilient. You're able to turn up the dial on the character traits that made those people win. When you listen to their stories and you align with their stories, you too, you realize, you learn that you too can win. You too can overcome anything if you're able to turn up the dial, turn up your dial, right, on those character traits and tactics that they have demonstrated in their journey. I asked him, "What were you thinking about for 3 days alone in darkness?" He said, "I was just thinking about my children. My children need an education in America." Despite the situation my father was in, traveling in a metal container for 3 days, he handled most of the trip very well. But he recounted the terror of the last 12 hours of the trip. He got sick, he was vomiting, he got very weak. And by the time the ship docked at the port, its destination port in the US, my father had to give up himself. He got too sick. He got to the point where he became so delirious. He got so sick to the point where he did not know himself. He remembered when Border Patrol were interrogating him, he was talking stuff that didn't make sense. He remembered that he was even crawling on all fours. That's how out of it he was. At this point of the story, I asked him, Daddy, why did you not give up yourself before you got so sick? He repeated, my children need an education in America. They need to go to college in America. He was arrested by US Border Patrol. They took care of him, they gave him medical attention. Then they deported him back to his port of entry, to that island where he came from. When he got there, they arrested him again. At this point of the story, I asked him, I said, Daddy, did you say to yourself after you've been deported and arrested, did you say to yourself, man, I'm done. I did enough. I tried. At least I tried. And it's all over now? You know what he said to me? He said, no, man, done. I'm ready to go again. After his release from this island, he went back to Jamaica and he saved his money while he waited on another chance to pursue his dream to get to North America. So he heard of an opportunity shortly after this to get to Canada. Not by sea this time, but by air. And here I am. I'm living my father's dream. I've been educated in Canada, being educated in America, being educated in England, being educated in Australia. And I can be educated anywhere in the world. I believe, despite how tough and improbable it was, my father has lived his dreams. And I believe he epitomizes what resiliency is. Resiliency is a set of skills that work together to help you to tolerate the pain that comes with your pursuit. It enables you to activate your negative capability. As the world crawls out of COVID-19, resiliency skills are going to help you to find new meaning in this tough situation. It's going to equip you with the tools to turn problems into opportunities, and it's going to give you the resources that you need to bounce forward. My program, Crawler, is a great framework that you can use to help you on this journey, to build your resilience. It's going to help you to be more relevant at this time, whether it's in your life or your work life or your entrepreneurial life. Crawler will help you to become more resilient.